The rules for picking a virtual wholesaling market have changed, and one of the most expensive mistakes you can make happens before you ever pull a list, call a seller, or even make an offer. You pick the wrong market. Maybe somebody on YouTube told you a certain city was hot. Maybe you looked for the cheapest houses you could find. Or maybe you just decided to wholesale where you live. But after more than 600 deals, that's not how I would pick a market today. If I were starting over in 2026, there are 4 things I would check before spending a single dollar on marketing. And the last one is the most important, because it's the one I see wholesalers get completely backwards. Rule number 1, know the rules. The first thing I would check isn't home prices. It's not population. It's not even motivated sellers. It's simply this: can I actually wholesale the way I want to wholesale in this state? Because wholesaling's changing. Different states are starting to put different rules and regulations in place. Some have disclosure requirements. Some may actually require a license depending on what you're doing. Some have rules around how you market a property, and those rules can affect the way you operate. So before I spend $1 in a market, I want to know the rules of the game. Can I sign contracts? Are there specific disclosures required? Do I need a license under certain circumstances? Are there restrictions around how I market a property? Are there regulations that could affect the way I plan to get leads? Because here's what I don't want you doing: spending thousands of dollars building a wholesaling business in a territory only to find out later you don't actually understand the rules of the game. And I've actually made this part much simpler for you. I put together a wholesaling rules and regulations spreadsheet that gives you a starting point for understanding the rules in different states. It's completely free. Go ahead and comment guide below and I'll send it to you. Obviously, regulations change, so always verify the requirements wherever you're operating by talking to a qualified attorney. But use the guide to start your research. Once a state passes that first test, we move to rule number 2. Rule number 2 is affordability. The second thing I want to know is, are the houses affordable? And one of the easiest places to start is the median home price. But here's where people can get this wrong. I'm not necessarily looking for the cheapest houses in America. Cheap doesn't automatically mean good. I'm looking for affordability, because ultimately somebody has to buy these properties from me and from our buyers. Think about 2 markets. One has a median home price, or the average home price, of $900,000. Another has a median home price of $250,000. Which market do you think is going to have more potential buyers? More landlords, more flippers, more newer investors who can actually afford to buy there? Probably the $250,000 market. And I actually had this happen recently with one of my coaching clients. I was on an onboarding call with a brand new client, and she told me she was really struggling to get deals under contract in her market. So one of the first things I asked her was, where are you marketing? She told me the territory, and I immediately knew we had a problem. The average home price in that area was around $750,000. That's a tough market to learn this business in. You got nicer houses, less distress, more sophisticated sellers, higher price points, and for somebody who's brand new, you're making starting a business even harder. It's not that you can't wholesale in a $750,000 market. Of course you can, but why stack the deck against yourself when you're trying to get your first deal? So we moved her into a different territory. Same person, same effort, same basic strategy, different market. And within about 30 days, she got her first deal under contract. Think about that. She didn't suddenly become a different wholesaler. We didn't magically give her 10 years of experience. We changed the environment she was trying to succeed in, and she got a completely different result. That's why I think so many new wholesalers struggle unnecessarily. They start in territories that don't even give them a fighting chance. Then they assume, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe wholesaling doesn't work. Maybe I just can't do this. When sometimes you're just fishing in the wrong pond. Change the territory, apply the same effort, and you can get a completely different result. Now, that doesn't mean you should run out and find the cheapest houses in America, because there are plenty of places where houses are dirt cheap, and I wouldn't wholesale there either. Why? That brings us to rule number 3. Rule number 3 is population and market size. There needs to be enough people, enough houses, enough transactions, enough opportunities. And this is where people can take rule number 2 too far. They hear me say affordability matters. So they go find some rural market in the middle of nowhere where houses are selling for $75,000 and think, this is perfect. And here's something I say all the time. In rural areas, you'll have no problem getting deals under contract. Why? Because nobody's calling these homeowners. There's very little competition. So you might start talking to sellers, getting properties at great prices, and you think you found this hidden gold mine that nobody else knows about. A hack to the game. The problem becomes when you try to find a buyer, because now you've got a property under contract and nobody wants the thing. That's why cheap doesn't automatically mean good. You might find out 4,000 people live there, 3 houses sold last month, and the same 2 investors bought both of them. That's not necessarily a market, that's a fishing pond, and there are already 2 guys sitting in it. Now, I'm not saying you have to target Dallas, Atlanta, or another huge metro either. I'm looking for the intersection between affordability and population, transaction volume, opportunity. I want houses affordable enough that investors can buy them, but I also need enough activity that when I get a good property under contract, I actually have people to sell it to. Because getting a property under contract does not mean you have a deal. You still need an exit. I need enough activity that I can build a repeatable business instead of sitting around hoping the right buyer eventually appears. And at this point, you might be thinking you found a great territory. The rules work. Houses are affordable. There's enough activity. But we're still missing the most important piece, because I don't just want to know that buyers exist. I want to know what they're actually buying. And that's rule number 4. And if you're already thinking about 2 or 3 states you'd like to wholesale in, don't spend money there yet. Start with rule number 1. Know the regulations. Comment guide below, and I'll send you my free wholesaling rules and regulations spreadsheet. Use that to start narrowing down your options. Because now we're getting to the rule that changes everything. Rule number 4, follow the buyers. This is the one I think most new wholesalers get completely backwards. Buyer demand. I want to know, are investors actually buying houses in this territory? Not, I think investors would probably like this area. Not, somebody told me this market was hot. Not even, there are a lot of motivated sellers here. I want you to show me the transactions. One of the first things I want to see is recent cash sales. And ideally, I want investors who are buying right now. Not somebody who bought 3 houses 5 years ago and hasn't bought anything since, because now I have something I really care about, proof. Buyers aren't telling me they might buy there. They're actually spending money there. But I don't stop there. Now I want to know, what are they buying? Single-family houses? Are they buying townhouses, condos, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 1,200 square feet, 2,000 square feet, $150,000 properties, $300,000 properties, which zip codes, which neighborhoods? Now something really interesting starts to happen. I'm not just picking a market anymore. I'm building a buy box, and I'm not guessing what the buy box should look like. I'm letting actual buyer behavior tell me. Most wholesalers do this backwards. Rule number 4, follow the buyers. This is probably the biggest thing I see new wholesalers get backwards. Most new wholesalers are told, if you find a good deal, it'll sell itself. I think that's terrible advice. And honestly, it's the kind of advice that keeps people stuck buying courses instead of actually doing deals. What I show my clients is how to flip that script. We call it the FYBF method, which stands for find your buyer first. When you're growing your buyers list first, you have a lot more confidence going into these seller calls. Why? Because you already have ready, willing, and able buyers looking for deals. You're not getting a random property under contract and then crossing your fingers, just hoping somebody wants to buy it. Instead, you start by having conversations with people who are actually doing deals. Find out what they're buying, where are they buying, what price points, what neighborhoods, what property types, what condition, what does the perfect deal look like to them? Now you've got intel. And this is where wholesaling becomes much more simple. You take that intel, you put it to your marketing, and you go find them exactly what they're looking for. Find your buyer first. Find your buyer first, find out what they want, go shopping for what they want, bring it to them, make money. And wholesaling becomes much more simple. That's why when I'm choosing a virtual wholesaling territory, I don't just want to know that there are buyers there. I want to know what those buyers are actually buying. Show me the transactions, show me the zip codes, show me the neighborhoods, show me the price points. Now I'm not guessing. I'm building my buy box based on what people are actually spending money on. And when I know what my buyers want before I ever start marketing to sellers, everything gets easier. I have more confidence on the phone. I know what a deal looks like. I know what I should be looking for. And when I find it, I already know who I'm going to call. That's why I always say buyers create certainty. And that is the FYBF method, find your buyer first. I'm gonna give you guys a bonus filter. There's one other thing that I like to look at. The age of the housing inventory. Generally, I like seeing plenty of houses that are at least 20 to 25 years old. Why? Because older houses have had more time for stuff to happen. Roofs get old, AC systems go out, kitchens become outdated, maintenance gets deferred, and owners have had more time to potentially build equity. All of that can create opportunity. But here's why this isn't one of my 4 main rules. My buyers are already gonna tell me what they want. If they're consistently buying 1950s 3-bedroom ranches, great, that's my answer. If they're buying 1980s rentals, great, there's my answer. I'm not trying to tell the market what it should want. I'm letting the market tell me what it wants. So if I woke up tomorrow and had to choose a completely new virtual wholesaling territory, I'm running it through our 4 tests. 1, regulations. Can I wholesale here? Number 2, affordability. Are properties affordable enough to support a healthy investor market? 3, population and market growth. Is there enough activity to create consistent opportunity? 4, buyer demand. Are investors actually buying, and what exactly are they buying? And if a market doesn't pass those tests, I move on. I'm not trying to force a market to work just because I picked it. There are thousands of territories in this country. Find one where the numbers actually make sense. So before you buy a list, before you pay for a dialer, before you hire a VA, before you spend a single dollar marketing to sellers, make sure you've picked the right territory. And your first step is knowing the rules. I've put together a free wholesaling rules and regulations spreadsheet to help you start your research. Go ahead and comment guide below and I'll send it to you. And remember, don't pick a market just because houses are cheap. Don't pick a market because some guru told you it was hot. And don't find a bunch of deals, then pray somebody wants to buy them. Stop guessing where you should wholesale. Know the rules. Look at affordability. Make sure there's enough activity. Then follow the buyers. Because I don't want to find a deal and then start wondering if somebody's gonna buy it. I wanna know what buyers want before I ever start looking. That's why buyers create certainty. And remember, buyers create certainty, deal flow creates opportunity, control creates income in simple scales. I'll talk to you soon.